Ever feel like the world's getting like a little crazier by the day?
Yeah.
Well, good news. Today we're diving into a report, right?
Okay.
By the folks who are like literally paid to worry for a living,
Okay.
chief risk officers.
Right.
These are the people the World Economic Forum went and asked them, what keeps you up at night? And believe me, their answers might surprise you.
It's true. What we're doing is, it's like we're peeking into the control room of the global economy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, these aren't just like, abstract threats like we hear about all the time. These are really real world implications that could affect you, your job, investments, even your morning coffee.
Okay, so let's get into it. This Chief Risk Officer's Outlook report, it's from October 2024, this month, but it's based on surveys from May. So it's kind of like a mid-year temperature check on everything.
Right.
Overall vibe, cautious optimism, I would say. Things are a bit calmer than they were in 2023, I feel like, but big question marks still remain,
Yeah,
especially around volatility.
exactly. It's less about, trying to predict doom and gloom and more about understanding like how fast things can change and why. Right.
Mm.
For example, a whopping 96%, that's almost all, of these CROs, they're worried about geopolitical tensions. So think like potential trade wars or like these surprise alliances shifting the global balance of power.
It's like the ground is constantly shifting under our feet.
Yeah.
But it's not just, global politics, is it?
Right.
71% of them are also stressed about domestic politics,
Yeah.
especially with the U.S. election coming up in November.
Yeah, imagine this. Imagine like some kind of policy change after the election,
Right.
and then suddenly throws a wrench in the global supply chain. Like suddenly that new phone that you ordered is delayed or prices go up. It
Wow.
just shows how interconnected everything is.
Talk about a chain reaction.
Yeah.
And then there's the economic roller coaster, right?
Okay.
Inflation seems to be like finally chilling out a little bit, but now it's all about what they're calling this like high debt, slow growth world.
Yeah, and to understand this, just try to picture this. Picture like a family, right, where everyone maxed out their credit cards,
Oh, no.
but their income isn't growing. So it's tough to invest in the future when you're drowning in yesterday's bills.
Yeah.
It's the same idea, but just on a global scale.
Wow.
Governments, companies, even individuals, everyone's feeling this squeeze.
Makes you think twice about that impulse purchase.
It really does.
But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Remember last year when everyone was freaking out about, tech, AI going rogue,
Right,
robots taking our jobs, all that?
right.
Well, fewer CROs are losing sleep over it now.
I think partially it's because businesses have adapted.
Okay.
They've built in safeguards.
Okay.
But it also highlights a really crucial point, I think. Risk is relative. What might seem huge one day might be overshadowed by something bigger tomorrow.
Whoa, that's a total blind spot for me. I always just assumed, like, tech was the risk, but maybe it's all relative to, these larger forces that are at play.
Absolutely.
So where are these experts seeing, like, the most volatility brewing?
Unsurprisingly, the Middle East and North Africa are at the top of the list, 84%.
Yeah.
Ongoing conflicts make that region incredibly volatile, which unfortunately isn't new.
Sadly.
But here's a curveball for you. The U.S. and Europe are tied for second at 40%.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Those seem like pretty stable places compared to, like, a war zone.
See, that's the thing about volatility. It doesn't always wear a flashing neon sign.
Right.
Even seemingly safe regions are grappling with uncertainty. And this directly ties into the top threats that organizations are facing and how you can prepare.
All right, hit me with the top three. What are these CROs most worried about for organizations, and what does that mean for, like, our everyday lives?
So, topping the list.
Yeah.
Macroeconomic factors.
Okay.
Remember that high debt, slow growth world we talked about?
Right, yeah.
This is where it hits home. This is the real world. Your job security, the rising cost of your groceries, your retirement fund, they're all vulnerable to these large-scale economic forces.
It's like those numbers on a spreadsheet suddenly become very real very quickly.
Exactly. And coming in at number 2 is a threat that's more than doubled since before the pandemic. Cybercrime.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about, like, stolen credit card info here.
Right.
Although that's still a risk, don't get me wrong. But imagine entire transportation systems or power grids going haywire because of a cyber attack.
Okay, now that is scary stuff. What about the final threat? What are these risk experts concerned about?
Number 3 might surprise you. Regulations.
Okay.
Governments are really playing catch-up, especially when it comes to technology.
So more rules and regulations. That doesn't sound so bad.
On the surface, maybe not, but imagine this. Imagine a new AI tool comes out
Okay.
that your business could use, right?
Yeah.
But the laws around, say, data privacy haven't caught up yet.
Oh.
Do you use it and risk fines or lawsuits? Or do you hold back and potentially lose your competitive edge?
Right.
That's the kind of uncertainty businesses are grappling with.
It's like trying to hit a moving target in the dark. So all this talk of risk and volatility, it's a lot to process.
And it is.
So we've uncovered these major forces shaping the world, right?
Yeah.
Unpredictable politics, a shaky economy, the ever-looming threat of cybercrime, all that stuff. It's easy to feel like kind of powerless in the face of all that, you know? Like we're just passengers on a runaway train.
Yeah, I get that. But what if instead of being passengers, we could, like, learn to navigate the tracks ourselves?
Okay.
That's what these CROs are trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
become masters of navigating uncertainty.
Mm.
And that's a skill set that anyone can develop.
Okay, I like where you're going with this, but how do we actually do that? How do we take this like high-level report and turn it into like actionable steps for our own lives?
Well, I think it all starts with shifting from a reactive mindset to a proactive one.
Okay.
Like, don't wait for a crisis to hit before you start thinking about how you'd handle it.
Well, easier said than done, right? I mean, none of us can predict the future.
You're right, you don't need a crystal ball. It's more about just incorporating a little risk awareness
Yeah.
into your everyday decisions. Say you're thinking about making a big career change, something you've always dreamed of.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Exciting, but yeah, a little scary.
Right. So a risk-aware approach, it's not about, like, crushing your dreams. It's about being smart.
Yeah.
You look at the industry, right? Is it booming or is it super volatile right now?
Yeah.
What skills make you extra valuable no matter what happens? Having a backup plan isn't pessimistic. It's powerful.
So it's like doing a cost-benefit analysis, but for like multiple possible futures, not just the one you're hoping for.
Exactly. And this applies to, like, personal finances too.
Mm.
Diversifying your investments, it's like hedging your bets against uncertainty
Right.
and like having an emergency fund.
Yeah.
That's peace of mind right there, knowing you've got a cushion if things get bumpy.
Makes total sense. It's not just about money, though, is it? The report also talks a lot about just the rapid pace of change that's happening in the world.
Absolutely. Things are moving faster than ever.
Mm.
Technology, geopolitics, you name it. What worked 5 years ago, even 1 year ago, might be obsolete now. It's like trying to run up an escalator that's going down. You've got to be constantly moving just to stay in place.
And sometimes it feels like that escalator's going at like warp speed.
Yeah.
So how do we like get comfortable with that? How do we thrive in an environment that feels like it's constantly shifting?
Well, the report points to a few key things.
Mm-hmm.
First, embrace continuous learning.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not just talking about, like, formal education.
Yeah.
It's about staying curious.
Yeah.
You know, being willing to learn new skills, even if they're outside your comfort zone.
So like instead of like panicking that AI is going to take my job, maybe I should take an online course in how to use AI to my advantage. Turn the threat into an opportunity.
Exactly. The report also really stresses building strong networks. Because when uncertainty hits, it's often our connections that provide support, guidance, maybe even lead us to that next opportunity that we hadn't even considered.
It's true. Sometimes just talking to someone with a different perspective can like completely change your outlook. You know, digging into this report, it's clear these challenges, they aren't just happening to us, they're happening to everyone, everywhere. It paints a picture of a very interconnected world.
And that's a key takeaway. These global risks, things like climate change, economic instability, geopolitical tensions, they don't respect borders. We're all in this together, whether we like it or not.
So what's the solution? How do we even like begin to tackle these like massive global problems?
I think it starts with just recognizing our interconnectedness.
Okay.
We can't just build walls and pretend what happens in other parts of the world won't affect us. It's about understanding that our actions, even on an individual level, have ripple effects.
So what does that look like practically? How can we as individuals make a difference? I'm ready to like ditch the doom scrolling and actually do something.
Well, one thing this report highlights is the power of collaboration.
Okay.
We're not alone in this, right? There are organizations, communities, and individuals all over the world working towards a more stable, resilient future. And by connecting with them, supporting their work, or even just staying informed about their efforts, we can contribute to positive change.
I love that. It's about like finding that sense of agency, knowing that we're not just powerless bystanders. But it also makes me think about something you mentioned earlier, the importance of empathy. If we're all in this together, we need to like understand each other's perspectives better.
100%. The more we can empathize with those who are different from us, who live in different parts of the world, who face different challenges, the better equipped we'll be to find solutions that work for everyone.
So it's about recognizing our shared humanity, even in the face of uncertainty and risk. That's actually a really hopeful thought. But I'm curious, as we move into the final part of this deep dive, how do we take all this, the interconnectedness, the empathy, the need for action, and actually apply it to our own lives in a concrete way?
That's a great question. And, it brings us back to this idea of risk awareness, right? But as a superpower, not a burden.
Okay.
Think of it like this. So instead of being overwhelmed by all the what ifs,
Right.
what ifs, we could actually use those what ifs to our advantage.
Oh, okay, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
But how do we go from feeling overwhelmed to feeling empowered? Because I think a lot of us, we get stuck in that doom scrolling trap,
Yeah.
where we're just like consuming all this negative news, but it's not really leading to like any positive action.
It's like we're binge watching like a disaster movie marathon.
Yes.
But we haven't bothered to check if our own emergency kit is stocked.
Yeah.
And this report highlights a crucial first step, I think. Being intentional about the information that we consume.
So less doom scrolling, more, is there like a, what do they call that, hope scrolling? Is that a thing?
Yeah. So, it's not necessarily about ignoring the bad stuff entirely.
Right.
But balancing it out, right?
Yeah.
So for every article you read about some potential crisis,
Yeah.
look for one about people innovating solutions, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Seek out diverse voices, especially from those directly impacted by the challenges that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
It's about getting a more complete picture of everything.
It's about being like informed, not just like
Yes.
alarmed,
Yeah.
right? Because knowledge is power.
Absolutely. So instead of letting, fear paralyze us, knowledge lets us ask, okay, what can I do about this?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's something small,
Yeah.
like donating to a cause that you believe in, supporting a local business, or even learning a new skill that just makes you more adaptable.
Right.
Or maybe it's something bigger, like a complete career shift towards a field that feels more aligned with, your values and the challenges that the world's facing.
Yeah. It's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Right.
The second best time is today.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we haven't been thinking this way all along, we can start making different choices now, right?
Exactly.
But let's be honest, change can be scary,
Oh.
even when we know it's for the best.
That's true.
So how do we overcome that fear and actually step into that more proactive, empowered version of ourselves?
I think this is where those strong networks that we talked about earlier really come into play,
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people who inspire you, who challenge you to think differently, who are also on that journey of growth and adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when you're surrounded by people who are actively shaping their own futures, it becomes a lot easier to believe that you can too, right?
Totally. It's like we create our own little pockets of positive change. And those pockets can expand outwards.
Exactly.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into the Chief Risk Officer's outlook, what's the one key message you're hoping our listeners will take away and maybe even act on this week?
The world is volatile. There's just no getting around that.
Right.
But within that volatility, there's also tremendous opportunity for growth, innovation, positive change. This report isn't a prediction of doom and gloom. It's a call to action.
Right.
We all have a role to play in shaping a better future.
I love that. It's a powerful reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, we're not powerless. So listeners, we're throwing the question back to you. What area of your life, whether it's your work, your relationships, your community, that could benefit from a little risk assessment, like the ones these experts do? It might just unlock possibilities you hadn't even considered. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.